Close your eyes and imagine this moment. The first ray of sunlight pierces through darkness, painting golden light across ancient stone walls. A child stirs, not to the jarring scream of an alarm clock, but to the gentle rhythm their body has known for thousands of years. This is 30,000 years ago, and you're about to witness something extraordinary. Forget everything Hollywood taught you about cavemen. Forget the grunting, club-dragging brutes living in filthy caves. The truth is far more beautiful, far more human than you've ever imagined. These weren't primitive savages struggling to survive. They were us, fully human, deeply intelligent, living lives more complex and meaningful than most of us experience today. They were artists and inventors, loving parents and skilled healers, master craftsmen and brilliant strategists. They lived in harmony with nature in ways we've forgotten, found joy in simple moments we've lost, and created communities that cared for every member from birth to death. What you're about to discover will change how you see our ancestors, and maybe how you see yourself. Because in their daily struggles and triumphs, their quiet moments and grand celebrations, we'll find the roots of everything that makes us human. The laughter around evening fires that echoes in our family dinners. The careful teaching that lives on in every lesson we share. The deep bonds that still define our need for community. This is the story of a single day, 30,000 years ago. But it's also the story of us, where we came from, who we really are, and what we've gained and lost along the way. The day is about to begin. The gentle awakening. Picture the most peaceful morning you've ever experienced. Now imagine that every single day of your life began this way. No alarm clock screaming you awake. No panic about traffic or meetings. No blue light from phones burning your eyes. Instead, your body naturally responds to the growing light, to the subtle shift in temperature, to sounds so gentle they feel like music. This is how every Paleolithic morning began, with the soft grace of natural awakening. In a rock shelter nestled in what would one day become southern France, 25 souls share the same space. But this isn't crowded or chaotic. It's intentional, beautiful, necessary. Extended families sleep together, creating warmth that no modern heating system can match. Children nestled between their parents, grandparents nearby, teenagers curled close to their siblings. Think about the last time you felt truly safe. For these people, that feeling was constant. No locked doors needed when everyone you love surrounds you. No fear of being alone when your heartbeat sinks with 24 others in the darkness. The first child to wake doesn't cry or fuss. Their circadian rhythm, uninterrupted by artificial light, works in perfect harmony with the sun. Modern sleep scientists spend millions studying what these people lived naturally. The gradual, gentle transition from sleep to waking that leaves you refreshed instead of groggy. As eyes flutter open, there's no rush to check messages or scroll through feeds. Instead, there's immediate awareness of what matters. Did everyone sleep safely? How does grandmother's breathing sound? Is the pregnant woman comfortable? This isn't primitive. It's the most sophisticated form of community care ever developed. The morning sounds aren't the hum of traffic or beeping of electronics. They're the symphony of life itself. Birds announcing the dawn, wind whispering through nearby trees, the soft rustle of bodies stretching under fur blankets, the gentle crack of joints as elders rise from their sleeping places. Watch how they move. Every motion has purpose, refined through countless generations. Children learn by observing, absorbing routines that have ensured human survival for hundreds of thousands of years. No instruction manuals needed when wisdom flows through daily action. The air carries scents unknown to our sanitized world. The earthy smell of the shelter, the lingering smoke from last night's fire, the clean scent of morning dew mixing with the musk of sleeping bodies. These aren't unpleasant odors. They're the perfume of belonging, of home, of safety. As more eyes open, the shelter fills with gentle movement, quiet conversations in the earliest human languages, soft laughter as children snuggle closer for a few more moments of warmth. The patient wait for full daylight before the serious work begins. This morning routine, replicated in countless shelters across the ancient world, shaped our deepest human needs. The craving for gentle mornings, the comfort of sleeping close to loved ones, the peace of waking without anxiety. But something crucial must happen before anyone thinks of food or water or the day's plans. Someone has a job that literally holds their world together, keeping the fire alive. The sacred fire. In the pre-dawn darkness, one person moves with quiet purpose. The fire keeper, often an elder whose hands have performed this ritual thousands of times, approaches the heart of their world. You have to understand, this isn't just about warmth. This fire might have burned continuously for months, even years. The glowing embers she's about to tend could represent an unbroken chain of flame passed down through generations. Let that sink in. The same fire that cooked her grandmother's food now warms her grandchildren. She kneels beside the hearth, and in this moment, she holds her people's survival in her weathered hands. The technique is pure poetry. Too much air, and the fragile embers scatter like dying stars. Too little, and they suffocate in their own ash. She's learned this balance through decades of practice, understanding aerodynamics in ways that would impress modern engineers. Watch her hands work. Small, dry twigs first. Kindling she selected and stored yesterday, each piece chosen like a musician chooses notes. This isn't random. She knows how different woods burn, which catch quickly, which provide steady heat. Each twig is positioned to maximize airflow while conserving precious fuel. The first thin wisps of smoke rise like prayers. Then tiny flames begin to dance, casting moving shadows on the stone walls. She adds larger pieces now, building a structure that's part architecture, part chemistry. No written manual taught her this. Only the accumulated wisdom of countless generations who depended on her skill. But here's what takes your breath away. This fire isn't just for one family. Evidence from ancient sites shows these flames served entire communities. Other groups would come to borrow embers, creating networks of connection that made our modern social media look primitive. Fire was friendship. Fire was alliance. Fire was the original internet, connecting distant communities through shared flames. As the fire grows stronger, its purposes multiply like magic. It's a predator deterrent. Most dangerous animals fear flame more than they fear humans. It's a communication device. Smoke rising in the morning air announces to the world, we are here, we are alive, we are human. The fire becomes the center of everything. Breakfast preparation begins around its edges. Tool-making stations form in its circle of light. Children gather close for warmth and stories. Adults plan the day within its protective glow. Different sections serve different needs. Hot coals here for cooking. Gentler flames there for warmth. A bed of embers saved for tonight's tool-making session. This isn't random fire tending. It's skilled engineering that manages humanity's most transformative technology. The firekeeper is architect and chemist, social coordinator and spiritual guardian all at once. She understands heat distribution, fuel consumption, timing, and airflow. Modern camping enthusiasts who struggle with matches and lighter fluid would watch in wonder at the effortless expertise. But the fire serves one more crucial purpose. As its warmth spreads and light grows stronger, it becomes a signal for the day's most important gathering. Without any formal announcement or calendar reminder, adults begin to drift toward the flames. It's time for the morning council, democracy in its purest, most ancient form. The morning circle. Something remarkable happens as the fire crackles to life. Without scheduled meetings or agenda items, the adults naturally gather around the warming flames. This is the morning council, a daily practice that predates any formal government by tens of thousands of years, yet operates with an efficiency that would make modern managers weep with envy. The woman who leads this discussion didn't inherit her position or win an election. She earned respect through decades of wise decisions, deep knowledge of the landscape, and an uncanny ability to read weather patterns. Ancient burial sites tell us that both men and women held leadership roles in these societies. Competence mattered more than gender. Imagine that. Listen to how decisions emerge. A young hunter reports fresh tracks near the water source. Deer, he thinks, but they seemed nervous, possibly sensing predators. An experienced gatherer mentions that hazelnuts in the eastern valley should ripen within days. Someone else notes shifting wind patterns suggesting weather changes ahead. This isn't casual chatter. This is intelligence gathering that would rival any modern situation room. Every piece of information gets weighed, considered, integrated into their growing understanding of their world. What's beautiful is how everyone contributes. There's no formal voting, no Robert's Rules of Order. Yet everyone who wants to speak gets heard. Even adolescents can offer observations, though they're expected to listen more than talk. Ideas are discussed, modified, refined, until general agreement emerges naturally. Today's plan takes shape organically. A hunting party will investigate those deer tracks, taking a route that allows them to check 3 other promising areas. The gathering group will finish yesterday's nut collection before moving to the ripening hazelnuts. 2 experienced crafters will stay behind to complete winter clothing. Those shifting winds make this urgent. An elder will take the children to collect water, turning the practical trip into a mobile classroom about edible plants. Notice what's missing from their planning. No one gets assigned meaningless busy work. No one spends 8 hours on mind-numbing repetitive tasks. Every activity has clear purpose and immediate benefit to the community. The concept of jobs that contribute nothing, what some scholars call bullshit jobs, would be incomprehensible to these people. The morning council serves deeper purposes too. It's daily democracy in action, a chance to air grievances before they poison relationships, an opportunity for knowledge to flow between generations, the grandmother teaching infant care to a new mother, the master hunter demonstrating a refined tracking technique, the excited child describing a new berry patch they discovered yesterday. All of this happens naturally within the council structure. It's education, governance, and social bonding rolled into one efficient morning ritual that sets the tone for everything that follows. As agreements are reached and the day's activities assigned, the firekeeper adjusts the flames for the various groups that will soon depart. But the first group to leave faces a task so fundamental we barely think about it today. Yet for our ancestors, it meant a daily journey that shaped everything about how they lived. Water, the life-giving journey. Turn a handle. Water flows. We do it dozens of times daily without thought. But for our Paleolithic ancestors, water meant planning, cooperation, knowledge, and risk every single day. This morning, like thousands of mornings before, a small group prepares for what they call the water run. These aren't randomly chosen volunteers. They're typically young adults, old enough to carry heavy loads, young enough to move quickly, experienced enough to handle danger. They gather their containers, animal bladders that hold water without leaking, tightly woven baskets sealed with pine resin, hollowed gourds that took weeks to perfect. These are humanity's first water bottles, engineered through trial and error to be lightweight when empty yet sturdy when full. Each container represents hours of careful work, and losing one means days of thirst. The journey to water isn't a simple walk. It's a carefully choreographed safety operation that could mean the difference between life and death. The water source attracts everything living in the area, from harmless deer to deadly predators. Every animal needs water, which makes watering holes the most dangerous places in their world. They move with practiced caution. One person always scans for threats, while others fill containers. They've learned that dawn and dusk are the killing times when predators hunt most actively. Mid-morning offers the best balance of visibility and safety, but even then, vigilance never stops. Along the way, they're not just walking, they're gathering intelligence that's as valuable as the water itself. Fresh tracks in mud tell stories that could save lives. Which animals drank here last night? Are predators nearby? Have other human groups passed through recently? A broken branch might indicate a bear's passage. Disturbed vegetation could signal a herd of wild horses. Mental notes flow back to camp with the water. Information that will influence hunting plans, travel routes, even whether to stay another day or move to safer ground. The water source itself represents accumulated wisdom spanning generations. They know which pools stay cleanest, which streams run year-round, where the water tastes sweetest. Some groups discovered natural filtration, collecting water where it seeped through sand and gravel. Others learned to avoid certain sources during algae blooms. This knowledge wasn't written in any manual. It was earned through observation, sometimes paid for with severe illness when mistakes were made. Every clean drink represented the wisdom of countless ancestors who learned the hard way, what water meant life and what water meant death. But here's what makes the journey even more remarkable. It serves double duty. The water carriers collect edible plants along the way, maximizing efficiency in ways that would impress modern productivity experts. A single trip accomplishes water collection, food gathering, intelligence work, and territory monitoring. The return journey tests everything they've learned. A filled container can weigh 30 pounds or more. They've developed specific techniques, tump lines across their foreheads to distribute weight, particular walking gaits that minimize sloshing, specific routes that avoid rough terrain. It's ergonomics perfected over millennia of practice. Modern hikers with high-tech hydration systems are using principles these ancient people mastered. Distribute weight evenly, maintain steady pace, protect the water at all costs. Because without water, nothing else matters. Not the hunt, not the gathering, not the tool-making or the evening stories. Water is life, and obtaining it safely is the foundation everything else is built on. While the water carriers make their vital journey, another group prepares for their own crucial mission, one that will determine whether the community eats meat today or makes do with plants and nuts. The breakfast hunt. The hunters who reported deer tracks at the morning council now gather their equipment with the focused intensity of surgeons preparing for complex surgery. This isn't the dramatic mammoth hunt of popular movies. This is about securing fresh protein for the morning meal, and the skills required would humble modern hunters with all their technology. The hunting party is small, usually 3 to 5 individuals who've worked together for years. They know each other's movements so well, they can communicate with subtle hand signals. They trust each other with their lives because in this business, one mistake can mean death, either from the prey or from predators drawn by the scent of blood. Their weapons are marvels of engineering disguised as simple tools. Wooden spears with fire-hardened tips, balanced so perfectly they feel like extensions of their arms. Some carry spear throwers that multiply the force of their throw, turning a human arm into a precision artillery piece. Every weapon represents hours of careful crafting, testing, and refinement. But here's what separates our ancestors from every other predator on Earth. They hunt with their minds more than their muscles. These hunters are behavioral psychologists who've spent lifetimes studying their prey. They know that deer follow predictable patterns, that they prefer certain plants at specific times of day, that they have favorite routes between feeding and watering areas. This knowledge, accumulated over generations, gives them advantages no modern technology can replicate. They don't just track animals, they predict where animals will be, thinking several moves ahead, like chess masters playing a game where every piece is alive and every mistake is final. Watch them move through the landscape. They read signs invisible to modern eyes. A bent grass blade reveals how recently an animal passed. The height of browsed branches indicates the size of the deer. Fresh droppings tell stories about diet, health, and direction of travel. They're not following tracks. They're reading the autobiography every animal writes in the landscape. When they finally spot their prey, a small group of deer grazing in a sun-dappled clearing, the real artistry begins. They must position themselves downwind, move silently across terrain that seems designed to create noise, and coordinate their attack without verbal communication. One hunter circles wide to drive the deer toward hidden companions. Others position themselves along likely escape routes. It's a complex tactical operation that military strategists would recognize as a perfect ambush, executed with tools that would be museum pieces today. The moment of truth comes quickly. A thrown spear launched with practiced precision can cover 30 yards in under 2 seconds. There's no room for error, no second chances. A missed throw means the deer escape, and the hunters return empty-handed to a community that was counting on their success. But when they succeed, and their success rate would amaze modern hunters, the result is immediate protein for 25 people. The animal is quickly and respectfully field-dressed, with every part earmarked for specific uses. Nothing is wasted because waste means hunger, and hunger means death. What's remarkable is the sustainability of this system. Studies of ancient remains show these hunter-gatherers were actually healthier than the farmers who came after them. Taller, stronger, with better teeth and fewer nutritional deficiencies. This wasn't despite their hunting methods. It was because of them. The breakfast hunt represents the culmination of human intelligence, cooperation, and adaptation that allowed our species to thrive across the globe. But while some community members pursue mobile protein, others engage in an equally sophisticated activity that provided the majority of their daily calories. Masters of stone and bone. While hunters track game and others fetch water, one group remains behind, engaged in what might be humanity's oldest manufacturing process. The scene looks deceptively simple. A person sitting cross-legged near the fire, surrounded by carefully selected stones, examining each one like a jeweler inspecting diamonds. Don't be fooled by appearances. What you're witnessing isn't crude rock bashing. It's precision engineering that would take modern humans years to master. The toolmaker runs weathered fingers across a piece of flint, feeling for flaws invisible to untrained eyes. Modern studies show it takes an average of 167 hours of practice over 22 months, just to become competent at basic stone flaking. Our Paleolithic artisan has been practicing since childhood, accumulating thousands of hours of experience that would make master craftsmen nod in recognition. The morning's work begins with material selection. Not just any rock will do. The toolmaker needs stones that fracture predictably, flint, chert, or obsidian that breaks in smooth, sharp curves when force is applied correctly. This knowledge, passed down through generations, represents humanity's first material science. Watch the hands work. The left grips the core stone at a precise angle. The right holds the hammerstone, not too heavy, not too light, chosen specifically for this task. The strike comes not from the arm, but from the wrist, a controlled snap that directs force exactly where needed. Brain imaging studies of modern people learning these ancient techniques show they activate the same neural pathways we use for complex planning and decision-making today. Each strike is calculated risk. One wrong hit can shatter hours of work. The toolmaker must constantly evaluate. Is this the right angle? How much force? Where exactly should the blow land? It's three-dimensional chess, where every move permanently changes the board, and the stakes are survival itself. But the workshop isn't just about maintenance, it's about innovation. Different cultures developed revolutionary new approaches. Some learned to create blade tools that got exponentially more cutting edge from the same amount of raw material. It was the Paleolithic equivalent of a computer chip, more function from fewer resources, freeing up time and energy for other activities. The social aspect is equally important. Young apprentices watch every move, learning through observation. There's no YouTube tutorial, no written manual, just the patient transmission of complex technical knowledge from master to student. The toolmaker occasionally pauses to let an apprentice try, guiding their hands, correcting their grip. These teaching moments represent something profound, the deliberate transfer of cultural knowledge that allows human societies to progress across generations. Without this patient instruction, every person would have to rediscover everything from scratch. With it, knowledge accumulates, improves, and spreads. As stone chips fly and tools take shape, another group prepares for what many consider the day's most important activity. Because while the toolmaker creates the instruments of survival, the gathering expedition will provide the majority of calories that keep everyone alive. The hunt gets the glory, but gathering gets the job done. The gathering wisdom. Led by experienced women who know every edible plant within a day's walk, the gathering expedition prepares for what provides the majority of calories consumed today. Forget the man-the-hunter stereotype that Hollywood loves. Archaeological evidence increasingly shows that plant foods, not meat, formed the foundation of the Paleolithic diet. The gathering party includes women of all ages, from grandmothers whose knowledge spans decades to young girls just learning to identify edible plants. Several men join too, particularly younger ones who haven't yet proven themselves as hunters, or older ones whose joints protest the rigors of the chase. They carry specialized tools refined over millennia, digging sticks hardened in fire for extracting roots, woven baskets waterproofed with pine resin for collecting berries, sharp stone flakes for cutting tough plant stems. It's a toolkit designed for maximum efficiency in nature's grocery store. Their destination today is a valley 2 hours away, where experience tells them certain tubers should be ready. But this isn't a single-minded shopping trip. The gatherers move through the landscape like ecological scientists, constantly observing, testing, remembering. A young woman spots unfamiliar berries. Rather than risk poisoning, she performs a systematic test passed down through generations. First, crush a berry and rub it on the sensitive skin of your wrist. Wait. Watch for irritation. If none appears, touch it to your lips. Wait again, then the tip of your tongue, each step carefully spaced to monitor for dangerous reactions. This methodical approach to new foods allowed humans to expand into unknown territories and safely exploit novel resources. It's food science without laboratories, toxicology without textbooks. The knowledge required staggers the imagination. Each gatherer must recognize dozens of edible plants at different growth stages, know which parts are edible when, understand processing methods that neutralize toxins, and remember the location and timing of scattered resources across vast landscapes. Modern botanists studying indigenous peoples are consistently amazed by the depth of this knowledge, often exceeding what's contained in scientific field guides that took decades to compile. The gathering process itself is far from random wandering. The group follows planned routes that maximize efficiency, visiting known resource patches in order that considers ripening times, travel distances, and carrying capacity. They're solving what mathematicians now call the traveling salesman problem, using mental maps and collective memory instead of algorithms. Social bonds strengthen during these expeditions. Knowledge passes between generations through stories and songs that encode crucial information about plants, places, and seasons. Older women share wisdom while their hands work automatically, decades of practice making the gathering almost unconscious. Young mothers carry infants in cleverly designed slings, the babies absorbing sights, sounds, and smells that will one day guide their own gathering. It's education, exercise, social time, and food procurement rolled into one efficient package as baskets fill with roots, berries, nuts, and leafy greens. The gatherers are doing more than collecting food. They're maintaining the vast database of environmental knowledge that allows their community to thrive in a world without grocery stores or agricultural safety nets. Back at camp, a group that appears to be simply playing is actually engaged in the most sophisticated educational system ever developed, learning through living. Back at camp, children appear to be simply playing. Look closer. That game with miniature spears, it's developing the hand-eye coordination needed for hunting. The elaborate make-believe involving family roles, it's rehearsing crucial social dynamics. The Paleolithic playground was humanity's first educational system, and it was remarkably effective. A 6-year-old boy naps pebbles with intense concentration, mimicking the toolmaker's movements. His tools are laughably crude by adult standards, but each strike teaches the relationship between angle, force, and fracture. By adolescence, he'll produce functional implements. By adulthood, he might innovate new techniques. This progression from play to mastery happens without formal instruction, driven by intrinsic motivation that modern educators struggle to recreate. No rewards or punishments needed, just the natural human drive to competence and the irresistible pull of adult activities. The girls aren't just playing with dolls, though they do that too, using figures made from clay or bundled grass. They're also practicing basket weaving with grass stems, learning basic patterns that will eventually create waterproof containers. They compete to identify edible plants around camp, turning botany class into entertainment. Mixed-age playgroups create natural mentoring systems. Older children gain status by teaching younger ones, reinforcing their own knowledge in the process. A 12-year-old demonstrates how to extract fibers from plant stems, showing the patience and clarity of an experienced instructor. She learned this same skill from an older child years ago, continuing a chain of knowledge transfer stretching back generations. Physical play dominates much of the day. Children chase each other through obstacle courses of rocks and fallen logs, developing agility needed to navigate rough terrain while pursuing game or fleeing predators. They climb trees with monkey-like efficiency, throw stones at targets with increasing accuracy, and wrestle in ways that build strength while teaching social boundaries. It's a full-body curriculum that produces adults capable of remarkable physical feats, but without the crushing pressure of modern competitive sports or the artificial separation between gym class and real learning. Perhaps most importantly, children have time, vast amounts of unstructured time to explore, experiment, and create. A child playing with wolf puppies at the camp's edge might be participating in one of humanity's most transformative relationships, the domestication of dogs, our first and most important partnership with another species. Without the pressure of formal schooling or structured activities, Paleolithic children learn at their own pace, following their interests, developing the diverse skills their society needs. It's an educational philosophy that modern alternative schools are only now rediscovering, that children are natural learners who thrive when trusted to guide their own development. As the sun reaches its zenith and temperatures soar, something remarkable happens. Instead of fighting through the discomfort with air conditioning and caffeine, our ancestors align their activities with natural rhythms, settling into a period of rest that serves multiple crucial functions. The healing arts. A young hunter writhes in pain, his leg bent at an unnatural angle after a fall during yesterday's chase. In our world, he'd be rushed to an emergency room for x-rays and surgery. But 30,000 years ago, something remarkable happens instead. The band's healer approaches with practiced confidence, carrying tools and knowledge passed down through countless generations. What follows would surprise modern medical professionals with its sophistication and success rate. The healer's hands move with the certainty of someone who's set dozens of broken bones. She understands anatomy through experience that modern medical students gain through textbooks and cadavers. Her knowledge was earned by treating real injuries on living people, whose survival depended on her skill. Ancient skulls show evidence of surgical procedures that would challenge modern doctors. Holes drilled or scraped into skulls, a procedure called trepanation, with bone growth patterns proving many patients survived. These weren't random holes drilled by ignorant savages. Many patients lived for years after the surgery, suggesting sophisticated understanding of both technique and aftercare. The Paleolithic medicine cabinet was nature's pharmacy. Of over 200 plant species found around ancient campsites, roughly 60% were medicinal. Willow bark for pain relief, containing the precursor to aspirin, specific mosses with antibiotic properties, countless herbs for treating everything from wounds to digestive issues to respiratory problems. This wasn't guesswork. It represented accumulated knowledge refined over thousands of years of careful observation and experimentation. When your survival depends on staying healthy, you become an excellent scientist of what works and what doesn't. Broken bones tell stories of successful treatment throughout the archaeological record. Healed fractures show proper alignment, sometimes with evidence of splints made from wood and secured with plant fibers. The positioning of these ancient healers often rivals modern orthopedic work, achieved through understanding gained by generations of hands-on practice. The role of the healer combined what we now separate into multiple specialties: physician, pharmacist, psychologist, and spiritual counselor. They understood that treating the whole person, body, mind, and spirit, was more effective than addressing symptoms alone. Care for the disabled and injured reveals the compassionate heart of Paleolithic medicine. Skeletons show individuals who survived for years with disabilities that would have required constant assistance. A man with a withered arm who lived to old age. A woman with severe arthritis who was clearly supported by her community throughout her decline. These weren't societies that abandoned the weak. They were communities that valued every member, understanding that today's patient might be tomorrow's healer, that everyone had something to contribute regardless of physical limitations. Animals provided unexpected medical insights. Ancient people observed animals seeking out specific plants when ill and adapted these behaviors for human use. Dogs eating grass for digestive problems. Bears seeking out certain roots after emerging from hibernation. This observational learning added layers to their medical knowledge that modern pharmaceutical companies are only beginning to explore. Wound care was surprisingly advanced. Honey, which has natural antimicrobial properties, was used when available. Tree resins served as natural bandages that both protected wounds and prevented infection. Spider webs might have been used to help blood clot, a practice some traditional healers still employ today. The biggest difference between Paleolithic and modern medicine wasn't knowledge, but technology. These healers understood infection without knowing about bacteria, recognized medicinal plants through generations of testing, set bones without x-rays, and performed surgery without anesthesia. Their success rate, evidenced by healed injuries throughout the archaeological record, suggests they were remarkably effective despite, or perhaps because of, their limitations. As evening approaches and shadows lengthen, the camp prepares for its most important daily ritual, the gathering around the fire that transforms individual survivors into a community with shared culture, values, and dreams. Voices in the firelight. As darkness falls across the ancient landscape, something magical happens. The scattered members of the band converge around the central fire, transforming from individuals focused on survival tasks into a community sharing stories, wisdom, and dreams. The fire casts dancing shadows on weathered faces as a successful hunter recounts the day's chase, using gestures and sound effects to recreate the moment his spear found its mark. But don't imagine a monotone report. This is theater. Modern neuroscience shows that storytelling activates multiple brain regions, creating shared experiences that bond listeners together. Our ancestors discovered this power long before MRI machines existed. Evidence from ancient hearth sites reveals organized spaces with distinct zones for different activities. The main fire wasn't just for warmth, it was the prehistoric equivalent of both television and social media combined. Everyone gathered here, from nursing infants to weathered elders, creating multi-generational spaces that modern society rarely achieves. Food sharing around the evening fire was more than nutrition, it was social glue. When meat was distributed, it followed complex social rules that anthropologists still observe in modern hunter-gatherer societies. The successful hunter often ate last, reinforcing community bonds through generosity. Compare this to modern families eating in shifts or alone in front of screens, and you realize we've lost something profound. The evening was prime time for tool maintenance and creation. With daylight gone, people worked by firelight, their hands guided by muscle memory developed over years of practice. Stone tool production wasn't rushed. It was methodical, almost meditative. The rhythmic sound of stone on stone became part of the evening soundtrack, as familiar as our television theme songs. Music filled these evenings too. Bone flutes from ancient sites weren't solo instruments. They were part of ensemble performances. Add drums made from stretched hides, rattles from gourds filled with stones, and voices raised in song, and you had symphonies that lasted for hours. Unlike our passive entertainment consumption, everyone participated. Even infants experienced rhythm through their mothers' movements as women danced. These weren't performances for audiences. They were community activities where everyone contributed their voice, their rhythm, their presence. The gatherings served as universities without walls. No written manuals existed, so everything from which plants were poisonous to how to track wounded prey was transmitted orally. Elders held living libraries in their minds, and evening gatherings were when these books opened. A child listening to stories about the last great drought wasn't just being entertained. They were downloading survival software that might save their life decades later. The grandmother, recounting how the tribe survived when the rivers ran dry, was teaching crisis management that no business school could match. Knowledge flowed in multiple directions. Young people shared innovations and fresh perspectives. Middle-aged adults contributed practical experience. Elders provided historical context and wisdom. It was the most sophisticated educational system ever developed. Personal, interactive, memorable, and directly applicable to daily life. As the fire burned lower and children dozed against their parents, adults continued talking in low voices, planning tomorrow's activities or discussing concerns about weather patterns. The evening gathering wasn't just social time. It was when bands became communities, when individuals became a people. Without these nightly rituals, human culture as we know it might never have developed. But the connections forged around evening fires extended far beyond single communities, creating networks that spanned continents and connected our ancestors in ways that might surprise you. Networks of connection. Imagine walking for weeks across unfamiliar landscapes, carrying precious cargo wrapped in animal hide. Your destination, a gathering place where multiple bands converge, drawn by the promise of exotic goods and vital social connections. This wasn't a medieval market or ancient bazaar. This was Paleolithic trade, and it was far more sophisticated than most people realize. The evidence is literally written in stone. Obsidian tools found hundreds of miles from their volcanic sources tell stories of trade networks that spanned continents. Mediterranean seashells appear in landlocked mountain caves. Baltic amber surfaces in southern settlements. High-quality flint traveled distances that would challenge modern backpackers. Chemical analysis reveals the scope of these ancient networks. When scientists trace a piece of obsidian found in France back to a specific volcano in Italy, they're uncovering trade routes that functioned for thousands of years. But why would Paleolithic humans walk hundreds of miles for particular types of stone when adequate materials existed locally? The answer reveals something profound about human nature. These trades weren't just about acquiring better tools. They were about maintaining social networks that could mean survival during hard times. A band with connections to multiple groups had insurance against local disasters, access to potential marriage partners, and exposure to diverse knowledge and techniques. Unlike our market economy where strangers exchange money for goods, Paleolithic trade was deeply personal. When bands met at traditional gathering places, often located at geographic features like river confluences or mountain passes, they weren't just trading objects. They were trading stories, genes, and survival strategies. Picture these gatherings. Dozens of bands converging during seasons when certain resources were abundant. While modern people might check phones at boring conferences, Paleolithic peoples engaged in days of feasting, dancing, and ceremony. Young people found marriage partners. Elders shared crucial environmental knowledge. Children played with peers they might not see again for another year. Women likely played crucial roles in these networks. Studies of modern hunter-gatherers show that women often maintain the social relationships that bind groups together. Those shell necklaces, found far inland, might represent a young woman's journey to join a distant band, carrying with her not just ornaments, but knowledge of coastal resources, techniques, and connections to her birth family. The complexity of these networks challenges every assumption about primitive peoples. They maintained mental maps of territories spanning hundreds of miles, remembered genealogies linking distant groups, and honored trade partnerships that stretched across generations. When a piece of Baltic amber reached the Mediterranean, it didn't travel through anonymous middlemen. It moved through a chain of relationships, each exchange strengthening bonds that had existed since ancestral memory. These gatherings served functions far beyond simple commerce. They were genetic exchanges that prevented inbreeding in small populations. They were technology transfer conferences where innovations spread rapidly across vast distances. They were diplomatic summits where territorial disputes were resolved and alliances forged. The social protocols were as complex as any modern international relations. Gift-giving followed precise rules. Certain objects could only be exchanged between people of specific relationships. The timing of trades mattered as much as the goods themselves. Offering the wrong item at the wrong moment could damage relationships that took generations to build. Archaeological evidence shows these networks persisted for thousands of years, surviving climate changes, population pressures, and territorial shifts. They represent humanity's first global economy, not based on profit or exploitation, but on reciprocity, relationship, and mutual survival. As our day in the ancient world draws to a close, it's time to reflect on what we've witnessed and what it means for us today. The eternal rhythm. As the fire burns low and the last stories fade to whispers, our journey through a single Paleolithic day comes to an end. But the rhythms we've witnessed, the gentle awakening, the careful planning, the skilled work, the evening gathering, continue echoing through time to reach us today. Think about what we've discovered. These weren't the primitive brutes of Hollywood imagination, struggling desperately against a hostile world. They were us, fully human, deeply intelligent, living lives more integrated and meaningful than most of us experience today. They were artists and inventors, loving parents and skilled healers, master craftsmen and brilliant strategists. Their days were structured around what truly mattered, ensuring everyone was fed, protected, and valued. No one worked meaningless jobs. No one was isolated from community. No one was discarded for being too young, too old, or differently abled. Every task contributed directly to the well-being of the group, and every person had something valuable to offer. The sustainability of their lifestyle staggers our modern minds. For over 2 million years, our ancestors lived in balance with their environment. They took what they needed, but rarely more. Their impact on the planet was minimal. Their social groups were egalitarian. Their approach to health was holistic, treating body, mind, and spirit as interconnected. Studies of their remains show they were generally healthier than the farmers who came after them. Taller, stronger, with better teeth, and fewer nutritional deficiencies. They had lower rates of the diseases that plague us today: depression, anxiety, chronic stress, social isolation. Their lifestyle promoted both physical and mental well-being in ways our modern world struggles to achieve. What happened to this wisdom? How did we move from sustainable communities to isolated individuals, from meaningful work to mindless consumption, from integrated lives to fragmented existence? The answer isn't simple, but part of it lies in what we gained and what we lost when we developed agriculture, cities, and complex technologies. We gained the ability to support larger populations, to specialize in narrow skills, to accumulate knowledge in written form. But we lost the deep connection to nature, the close community bonds, the diverse skill sets that made our ancestors so remarkably adaptable. Yet the ancient patterns haven't disappeared completely. They live on in our deepest human needs and behaviors. Our love of stories around campfires echoes their evening gatherings. Our children learn through observation and play just as Paleolithic apprentices did. We still form small, close-knit social groups despite living in cities of millions. We're still thrilled by successful hunts, whether for bargains or business deals. The skills and wisdom developed during the Paleolithic continue to influence us in ways we barely recognize. Our pattern recognition abilities, our capacity for cooperation, our drive to teach and learn, our need for meaningful work, all were shaped during those millions of years of small group living. Understanding our Paleolithic heritage doesn't mean romanticizing the past or advocating a return to prehistoric life. Those times had genuine hardships, high infant mortality, shorter lifespans, vulnerability to climate and predators. But they also had gifts we're only now learning to appreciate: sustainable living, integrated communities, meaningful daily activities, and deep connection to the natural world. As we face modern challenges, climate change, social isolation, meaningless work, mental health crises, perhaps we can learn from our ancestors' successes, their approach to community care, their integration of work and social life, their respect for both individual contribution and group welfare, their sustainable relationship with the environment. All offer insights relevant to our contemporary struggles. The next time you plan tomorrow's activities, teach a skill to a child, or gather with friends around a meal, remember that you're participating in traditions as old as humanity itself. The Paleolithic day never really ended. It just changed costumes, adapted to new circumstances, evolved with us as we've evolved. In their daily struggles and triumphs, their quiet moments and grand celebrations, our ancestors left us more than just DNA. They left us patterns of behavior, ways of thinking, approaches to community and meaning that remain relevant today. They showed us what humans are capable of when we live in harmony with each other and our environment. The fire burns lower now, just as it did 30,000 years ago. But the warmth it provided, the connections it fostered, the stories it illuminated, the community it created, that warmth continues to burn in us today. We are their dream of the future, carrying forward the best of what they learned, adapting it to new challenges, preparing to pass it on to our own children around new kinds of fires. The day ends, the eternal rhythm continues, and we remain, still and always, beautifully human.